Welcome, Builder. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Excited to be here.
Oh my goodness, you are not so excited like me. I'm more excited than you, actually. So, like I told you, I'm going to let you take the wheel. But
Okay.
before, I will want you to introduce yourself. And I think that it's best for you to introduce yourself by
Yeah,
yourself instead of me telling people what you do. I think that it's
perfect.
best for you to tell what you do, how you do it, and you dive into your presentation. And I will go in the backstage waiting for you. Okay?
Awesome.
Let's do
All
this.
right, thank you.
Okay,
And
you're
welcome,
welcome.
everyone. Yeah, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled to be here. So today's presentation is called Introducing PMO Roadmaps into Your PMO. So introducing roadmaps. All right, who am I? My name is Bill Dow. I have 30 plus years of hands-on experience in the PMO and project management space. I actually managed my first project in 1991 and my first PMO in 2003. So I run a large PMO in the Seattle area today. And in 2023, I was nominated and won the PMO Influencer of the World. So really, really excited about that, and a huge honor to be win across all my peers. So I've been a speaker around the world. In 2023, I keynoted the PMO conference in Edinburgh, Scotland, which was amazing. I've spoken in Toronto, Vancouver, San Diego. So you name it across North America, I have spoken. I've also written 7 books. You can get those on Amazon and Google and all those various places. And I have about 24 or 25 ebooks in both PMO and project management. And I'm coming up and writing new ones all the time. You can get those at Build Out PMP Training. So again, thrilled to be here. Thank you so much. I love presenting at this conference. Joe and team do an amazing job. So thank you so much for having me. Okay, we have got a great agenda today. I just absolutely love this topic. I've been doing it for years and years. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about the problem statement, right? We're going to talk about PMO roadmaps, where to start, right? We're going to talk about roadmaps and service offerings and how they marry together, talk about drawbacks and benefits, and then we'll summarize and wrap it up. All right? Awesome. Okay, I always like to start with a problem statement, right? So PMO leaders have no idea how to incorporate AI into their PMOs. Okay, so let me say that. They when we think about AI, right? And Sylvia and I were just talking about that. AI and actually growing their PMO, which is kind of funny. So again, let me say that again. PMO leaders don't know how to grow their PMO in some cases. That is so funny. And so what are they focused on, right? They're focused on stakeholders. They're focused on resources, program and project, tools, right? Focus on surviving, right? And so what we want to do, and I can see the chat, but what we want to do is we want to figure out how to put PMO roadmaps into this process and how do they grow your PMO with roadmaps. Okay. So I want to change that today. I want to, instead of figuring out exactly how we mature the PMO, and we're going to do that, we're going to do that through the concept of a roadmap. Okay. So what do we mean by a roadmap? Right? So when I search and I look at roadmaps, I look at and I find things like how to build a PMO, right? What's the roadmap for building a PMO? Well, I've seen another definition, which is the one I want to use today, and that is a strategic plan that outlines the goals and the objectives of a PMO. Okay, so when we think about roadmaps, there's a ton of different definitions, right? Sometimes we see how to build, but we also see how, a strategic plan, and that's the one where we want to focus. Okay, so there's a huge difference in that. And do you guys see the difference? And I can see the chat, but do you see the difference between the two? So I have a question, and I do want to pull you into the chat. Are you growing and maturing your PMO today? So are you growing and maturing your PMO today? And so let's see. We're looking at the chat. So Candace says yes, right? Yeah. So no. Yeah. Some yeses. Joan says yes. David says no. So we've got some yeses and nos, which is we really do need to grow our PMO. If you're going to move the dial of maturity, you've got to keep figuring out how to do that. And I'm going to say we're going to do that through roadmaps. So, but what's our starting point, right? I can say roadmaps and I can talk about roadmaps, but how do we start? Well, roadmaps need a plan and they need a foundation, right? Because many leaders, right, need to grow and mature their PMO. You got to keep turning that dial for maturity, right? You're only going to get better when you think about how you keep turning that dial. So, one way of building out roadmaps is to think about mapping them to your service offerings. So when you think about what services each PMO does, and your PMO services are going to be different than mine, which are going to be different from Jones and Candace's and so on, right? So it's about mapping the service offerings to your roadmaps. And I'll explain what that means. So here are some of the service offerings that I have used across 20 plus years of building and running PMOs. And I love these graphical views because it really pulls people in. But let's look at some of these. Governance, finance, reporting, right? So again, to the chat, do you all have a set of service offerings in your PMO? Program and project management could be a service offering, organizational change management, testing, BAs, whatever the case may be. Do you guys have it? Candace does. Yep. Tony says, yeah. So we do have people that have service offerings. That's great. So what we want to do then is we want to map our service offerings to our roadmaps. Okay. So you're going to take your service offerings and you're going to map it to your PMO roadmaps. Okay. And then in each of the swim lanes, you're going to put process improvement projects. Okay, you're going to love this. So the value is pulling this out, and it really is as simple as 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So here's an example of a simple, very basic roadmap. Okay, you've got service offering 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and they sit right there. Okay, so again, we all have a concept of service offerings, right, in your PMO. And so you're going to actually put them on a generic roadmap like this, and it's only going to get better. Just hang in, and you're going to lay those out. Every swim lane will have its own service offering. So it looks something like this. Okay, so you take governance, put it in the swim lane. Finance, put it in the swim lane. Make sense? What do you think? Go to the chat. What do you guys think so far? Pretty basic, but you see where I'm going here. Okay. All right. So mapping service offerings to roadmaps. So now that we have a high level roadmap and you're starting to map each of the service offerings, you're going to start putting individual process improvement projects within that. Okay. And we'll show you what that looks like. But here is even a basic roadmap like this. Service offerings, governance, tools and reporting, program and project management, organizational change management. Even something this basic will actually help you get started. Is anyone doing this today? Joan says, looks familiar. Emma says, seems like I'm starting to give my service offering some thoughts. Awesome. Yes, I strongly believe if you're going to run a PMO, you have to have a set of service offerings. So even something like this, do you think something like this basic would be helpful? And I'm looking in the chat. It is. Trust me, it is. Because what happens is it starts the conversation. Okay? So now let's look at governance. Now, this is where the gold comes, right? This is where the meat here becomes. You have a governance roadmap. And what you have is a series of individual process improvement projects that you're going to do to mature your PMO. Now, remember, why are we doing roadmaps? We said we do roadmaps based on that second definition, which is the moving of the dial, the strategic plan of how we're going to grow our PMO and how we're going to mature our PMO. So if you have governance in your PMO, and you have a governance roadmap, you're going to have a series of process improvement projects to improve governance. Does that make sense? Rachel says, totally. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, so that's it exactly. So, at the highest level, you're going to have a set of a very generic roadmap called governance. You're going to have the process improvement projects. And then in the intake, you're going to say develop an intake process. Whatever the process improvement projects are that you want to use to improve governance, those will be in your new sets of swim lanes. Okay, so let me pause for a second before I show you the next example. How do you determine what to do in governance? How do you know what to put in the swim lanes? Let's go to chat. What do you guys think? How do you know what to put in your swim lanes for any particular service offerings? Or how do you know what process improvement projects to use for every of those swim lanes? Rachel, Joan, Emma, Candace, what are you thinking? Ask stakeholders. Yeah, Joan nailed it. Joan nailed it. What are your pain points? Joan, thank you. What are your pain points? So the pain points that we have are intake, right? Resource management, right? Any of these ROI value management, those are the pain points. And therefore, you're going to create process improvement projects to improve those pain points, which in turn will improve governance. Does that make sense? Because that's really the whole idea behind this. So let's go look at the next one. Tools and reporting, same thing. Power BI and dashboarding reports, Power BI training, Tableau, whatever the case may be, whatever your pain points are, right? And then you're going to click it down. You're going to say, I want new dashboards and report or executive. I want resource dashboard and reports. I want portfolio reports. You start building out the specific pain point and the specific sets of process improvement projects that will satisfy that pain point. Does that make sense? Do you guys like that? Do you guys like that idea of kind of laying that out? And you can see that they're staggering because you're certainly not going to do, like in the first one, Power BI training reporting, you're not going to do all 4 of those process improvements at the same time. That's crazy. You're still running a PMO. But to turn the dial around Power BI dashboard and reporting, you gotta think of those process improvements. Do you like that idea? Yeah, thank you. So that's what you're going to continue to do. You're going to continue to create these process improvement projects based on your pain points across your service offerings. Program and project again. Now look at all the program and project and process improvement projects that we have for program and project management, right? Again, there are so many things that we can continue to do to move the dial within this particular space. Now, if you accomplished all of these things in your roadmap, and again, I'll go to chat, but if you accomplish all these things, do you think you would have moved the dial in program and project management? Tony, yeah. Candace, yeah. Trina, yeah. Absolutely, right? Now, do you have to finish these things overnight? No, not at all. But do you think a power of this roadmap and presenting this in front of your executives when your executives are complaining about your program and project execution, do you think that would be a powerful tool? Yeah, of course. Yeah, Tony says it's a journey. Of course, it's a journey, right? You don't have to get this thing overnight. But when you present something like this in front of them and they're complaining that there's program and project execution, you're telling them as a PMO leader how you're going to solve those problems. Again, across each swim lane. And obviously, these are just an example, but these could certainly be starting points. And I know you guys get the PDF as part of the presentation, but these could certainly be starting points for your own organization. Okay. So then the last one is organizational change management. Again, I'm going to go to the swim lanes, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, right? What are the process improvement projects? And again, you have an unbelievable roadmap that you can have great conversations. You can figure out training, you can figure out budget, you can figure out resources, right? And so, what does it all look like? This is what it all looks like. You have an obviously an example, but you have the generic roadmap, which I guarantee you, even that roadmap itself will be a starting point for all the goodness that you're seeing in the respective roadmaps down below. What do you think? I'm going to pause for a sec. What do you guys think? Does that make sense? Right. And I love Tony's comment because Tony says you're not overcommitting. And 100% right. You've got to look at these roadmaps and figure out where everything's laying and then figure out what the timing is. So that's a great thought, Tony. I absolutely love that. But you can now see how they're all connected. And you can now see at the individual roadmap how you'll turn the dial, right? Now, these were clearly just examples, right? These were examples, but what you want to do is you want to keep going and going and going, right? So, based on your service offerings within your PMO, you're going to build out individual roadmaps for each service offering. And then what you will do is you will combine those, and I'll show you that for a second. Does that make sense? Everyone tracking to that? Seems like people are tracking with that, like that, makes sense. And it's pretty easy, right? Like in the big scheme of things, this is not rocket science. This is actually pretty easy to do, and it tells very different stories. Now, let me ask you a question. If you laid out all those roadmaps and you told your PMO team, okay, we have to accomplish all of that, right? Because there's a lot of roadmaps there and there's a lot of process improvement projects. What kind of pushback would you get? So you laid out all the roadmaps and you called an all PMO meeting and said 30, 40 people, whatever your PMO says, we got to do all this work, right? You're going to get tons of pushback, right? But that's okay because you've got them on a roadmap and you shift and shake, right? You move it to the left, move some to the right. What are the big pain points? But if you go into an all PMO meeting and you go, yeah, guys, we got to mature this PMO, but we don't really know how to do it, or we don't know when we're going to do it, that's not a good thing either, right? So it's a balance. I always say with these process improvement projects, you put on the gas and then you pull it off. Put on the gas, pull it off. That pulling it off is the shifting and shaking of the dates for your roadmaps. That make sense? And does that feel right? Do you feel like from a change management, an org change management perspective, you can get more buy-in if people are able to move some of these dates in your roadmap and so they don't feel like they're overwhelmed with programs and projects and they're overwhelmed with having to do process improvement projects? Joan says yes. Yeah. Make sense? Good. Okay. So let's keep going. So, because I want to pause, right? I want to make sure we're just tracking before you see it kind of all pulled together. So, what we did is we said, what are our pain points in our product? We said, what are our service offerings? And then we said, what are our pain points? So, we said service offering, pain points. We created individual roadmaps. From the roadmaps, we then created process improvement projects to fill those roadmaps. Right? And when you're done, you get this, right? When you're done, you have a full set of a PMO service offering, PMO roadmap, and you now have that complete story. Now, is that a tremendous amount of work to put onto a project? Of course it is. Is it a very great graphic for this conversation today? Of course it is. But you have to tweak and adjust and basically make sure that you are shifting where possible. But having that laid out plan, as Juan says, having that laid out plan gives you that ability to understand how you're going to turn the dial and how you're going to continue to turn the dial across your organization. And I can't stress enough how important that is. So from there, what are the things that we get? Right. And I'll go to chat. What are the things we get? We get, do we need training? Right? When will we do it? Who will work on it? What are we doing to improve? Right? You can get, the standard who, what, where questions across that roadmap. Then what you do is throughout your conversations with your executives, throughout your conversations with your peers, you then continue to bring this roadmap up, right? You've got a plan, you've got a strategy, as Janice is saying, you've got a plan, you got a strategy, but you're basically saying how you're going to move the dial. Now I'm going to come back for a sec. A lot of you said you weren't necessarily moving the maturity of your PMO for a million different reasons, right? There's, overwhelmed with projects, lack of resources. We can say all the project problems or PMO problems that we're having today. But do you believe by walking through a process like this, at least it gives you a starting point? It does not mean that you have to start all these projects immediately. Doesn't mean that you have to stop all your active projects and do these projects. But what it does tell you is it's a path to keep maturing your PMO. And I can't stress enough, if you don't keep that dial and that gas pressed on pushing your PMO, right? I had AI in my head. We were just talking, Sylvia and I were talking about AI, right? We got to think now, okay, now AI is coming. So how do we keep maturing the PMO from even a new service offering? So I love that view. It's been a view I've used for years, and it's one that will help you continue to move that dial. So I have a question for you. What do you think? Do you think it works? Think it won't work? Do you think having the individual roadmaps will be beneficial? Mapping them to the service offering, do you think that'd be beneficial? And we've seen some great comments along the way. It feels like across the board, it would be beneficial. Yeah. And it's something I have used and will continue to use until I'm not managing PMOs, because I continue to get asked the question, how do you keep turning the dial? How do you keep turning the dial while balancing the massive amounts of programs and projects? Okay, it's like a WBS, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about some benefits and drawbacks, right? Clearly, it's a lot of work. Let's start with benefits. I love benefits. So as you can see, having individual roadmaps like this will provide you a path of clarity, right? It's going to provide you that talk track on how you mature. Your organization, your tolerance for these process improvement projects, that's going to drive the when and how many you can do, but it's going to provide you that path, right? It's also going to start to get you to think about your pain points and what process improvement projects can you use and do to solve those pain points. Now, have you ever thought about who are the best people to solve the pain points of your PMO? Let me ask in chat. Who are the best people to solve the pain points in your PMO? Joan, what do you think? Candace, what do you think? Who are the best people? The PMs, Rachel, yeah, 100%. So you're going to have the PMs do the process improvement projects. Yeah, 100%. Because they're the ones that are facing the problems. And if they don't like a risk and issue, they don't like a process, you're the ones that are going to have, they're going to the ones that are going to be the most motivated to change that. So these process improvement projects sitting on a roadmap, some of them will die to work for these things because they frankly are going to want to fix a pain point they're dealing with every day. And then final point is these roadmaps provide unbelievable conversations with your executives. Okay, really great benefits. Wait, I got some more benefits. Wait. So creating individual roadmaps for the service offering will empower the particular leaders of those service offerings. Let's take an example. If I have a PMO today that runs governance, and I give the governance roadmap and I say, you build a roadmap for your governance team and your governance process, do you think that would empower that governance leader to tell you exactly how he or she is growing governance? 100%. So it empowers the governance team, it empowers the governance leader, and it says, you, governance leader, this is how you're going to mature your area of the PMO. Same with tools, same with program projects, same with blah, 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 whatever you have, right? So the teams that work for governance are aligned to that roadmap as well. And I can't stress enough how important that is, right? They're doing the work of governance, but they got to keep turning the dial. They're doing the work of testing. They got to turn the dial for testing maturity or BA or change management, whatever the case may be. So another thing that you will use is you'll use these roadmaps in performance reviews, because putting process improvement projects in performance reviews are an amazing way to get these things done. If you put someone's performance review that you will get merit in stock and all that goodness for doing process improvement projects, you'll be surprised on how fast they get done. Make sense? So there's a couple extra benefits there that may not be actually coming out on the value of these roadmaps, but I highly recommend doing it. Okay. And of course, there's going to be drawbacks. So think about the drawbacks. There's no easy button. It takes time, right? And you as a PMO leader, you want to orchestrate this. You want to keep moving that dial, proving that dial, moving that dial. But it takes time to keep up to date, right? You get so bogged down in programs and projects and the execution of your PMO, you got to step back and say, how do I keep turning that dial? Right? If the value of these roadmaps are not critically understood by the team members, it will be considered overhead and administrative work. So individual PMO people that are working in your PMO that have to do these process improvement projects, if they don't value this, they're going to call it overhead. And you need to turn that down. You need to understand the why, and you need to sell that why, because you're trying to grow your organization. And that's critical. And too many process improvement projects starting at the same time will be overwhelming. You can't do that. You got to shift and shake, right? If they're so busy with project execution, and you throw on a ton of process improvement projects, it's going to fall flat. You just cannot do that in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so you got to stagger those out. You got to shift your roadmap out. Make sense? Alberto, thank you. All right, let's summarize. Okay, so we've got a lot here. We summarized, but let's summarize. All right, we covered a lot of information, right? So problem statement, the struggle around how to mature your PMO, not AI, like I said at the beginning. That's funny. PMO roadmaps, where to start, roadmaps to service offerings, roadmap examples. I hope you like those examples, right? I really hope you like those examples. And then we talked about the benefits and the benefits and the drawbacks. It takes time. But by creating these series of roadmaps will be a tremendous foundation to continue to grow and mature your PMO, right? So it's that foundation and continue to grow. That's where you want to do. Not all at once, hence the roadmap and shipping and shaping those dates. But you certainly want to have roadmaps and get that out to your PMO and to your executives and your customers. And that is all I have. Thank you so much. Best contact information is filled out at dowpublishingllc.com. Thank you for your time. Sylvia, I'll give it back to you. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Bill. I hope that all of us, actually, including me, have learned something new that we are going to apply when we go back to our office.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, and since we,
Oh, Sylvia, you're on mute, or we lost your audio. Oh, she's on mute.
What else again?
Oh, yeah, you were on mute. Sorry, you're back now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. Great presentation, Bill. Much
Thank you.
appreciated, Bill. So plenty of thank you. So
Yeah.
I'm asking the audience to stay tuned because Bill was really hitting hard on us with the roadmap actually on PMO. So the next one is Jenny. So stay tuned for Jenny. Thank you, Bill,
Thank you.
and have a wonderful day, everyone.
All right.